Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for April 22nd, 2014. We opened early for executive session, reason number 3, and we're back here. We'll do the roll call again just for repetition.
All right, Ms. Whiteside, Mr. Tropiano, Mr. Slavin are all present, as well as Town Administrator Derek Sullivan and Rich Bowen, Town Council.
Announcements?
Let's talk, Judy? I have one.
You have one there.
I have one. The Junior Onset Bay Association's first annual fashion show brunch will be at Salerno's Restaurant Function Hall, Sunday, April 27, 2014. Time is 1 p.m. Tickets are $20. I have a number, 508-295-7727, or you can go online at www.onsetbay.org. And that's all I have for announcements.
Okay, I'll do this as quickly as I can. We have the Oyster Festival this coming weekend. There is a dance gala on 25th at Toby Library on High Street, 6 p.m., Bob?
5 to 9.
5 to 9. Always close. $40 a person?
Yes.
The Oyster Festival itself on the 27th on Main Street. I think there'll be a race as well.
The race will start at 10.
10.
The festival.
Festival runs all day long, and there'll also be a few other things. Ella's is doing something on the 23rd, tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
I think it's 6 p.m. Check to make sure with Ella's. They may or may not be sold out of that event.
And I don't know the answer to that either.
Me neither. Also, I got a notice that the Educational Foundation, through Mr. Paulson, is having their annual event at the Box Mill at Tohonet with AD Makepeace, May 9th. I believe it starts about 6 p.m. We have pre-town meeting on the 24th, this Thursday, Multi-Service Center, 7 p.m., room 320, which is here. Let's see. Also, I think on Thursday you have an event, Oysters somewhere?
Sure. Would you like me to come up?
No, just quickly, then you come up again.
The Mass Oyster Project organization
Right.
is having 2 speaker series. During the day on Thursday, they're going to speak to the boys and girls at the Boys and Girls Club. It's open to all boys and girls. And then in the evening, they're going to do another speaker's engagement at Lindsay's Restaurant.
Thank you.
Yes, you are.
And the last is Mr. White does his coffee hour on Thursday, 9:15, over at the library, and he's asked one of us to come over and talk about the budget. If I have some time frame open, I'll be there for that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Whiteside, you remembered something. Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Senior moment. Sorry about that.
Your
May
turn.
10th, from 9 to 12, we have a cleanup at the Lopes Playground. We've put 3 or 4 names out on the website, and we've gotten some response. We're having a planning meeting this Thursday at 3 o'clock at Lopes Playground. We are desperately looking for people who know how to sand things with an electric sander. That's one of our biggies. So.
And we need electric sanders.
And the arms to go with them.
So anybody out there who has an electric sander and wants to show up that day, we'll supply the power, you supply the muscle, and we'll try to sand that up. And my daughter actually is over there today and got a sliver, so I know that it really needs attention, and this would be really nice to get this done. So please call, please bring a sander, please come and help us. It's just one day out of your lives, and you can enjoy this thing for a bunch more time.
Citizens participation? Anybody? Oh, I did get a softball for the day.
Yeah, okay. All right, licenses and permits request. We have the Buzzards Bay Brewing Company, if you would come on down. Huh? Mr. Brady,
Thank you. I'm sitting in for Bill Russell, who is actually on vacation. Lucky him right now. He'll be back this weekend.
We have all the information that we've been waiting for. Everything is signed. We have the tips, etc.
Yep.
The only thing, what I did was I went down to Pizzoli Square where you wanted to run the event. I've got pictures of the stone walls and fences, which covers 3 sides basically to make it secure. And what I also did was there is a pole, Mr. Brady, here in the parking lot, just a little bit before the door for Kosciuszko's funeral parlor.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the opposite side where the fat guy, which is me standing over here,
Yep.
that's directly opposite there.
Yep.
So what we'd be looking for to make everybody feel secure with the event would be to run a barrier straight across that line, which would allow people, if a car had to come up for emergency, they could drive up around the U, just run a barrier straight across, have your gate wherever you want it there, just have the police or somebody there to monitor that no liquor leaves that area.
Well, just for the record, I did meet with the
Kevin.
police, fire, and EMS. They're going to want for all of Main Street, 18-foot fire lane.
Yep.
Within these program. And so, obviously, we'll accommodate. And then as far as Pizzoli Square, we had the conversation. Because the police technically cannot be the liable party, we effectively are with, the insurance that we carry for our organization. But they will be there, obviously. We're going to have police at both ends of Main Street and probably a third walking back and forth, and they're all going to keep their eyes open for not just, people that might try to sneak beverage beyond, but just typical law and order.
Yeah, you just need to have someone from your organization man the gate there, that's all.
Right.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Oh, go ahead and read it off.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the one-day liquor license for Buzzards Bay Brewing for April 22nd, 2014. No, I'm sorry, April 27th, 2014, between 12 and 3. That's correct?
The
That's
actual
what it says.
permit's 11 to 4, but the serving would likely finish by 3
Okay.
and probably not start till
It says 12 to 3, so we'll go with that unless you want to.
No, that's,
Okay.
that's fine.
The selling of beer and wine on that location, and that you'll do everything you can to maintain the area and keep it secure.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 300.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should be able
Very
to get
much.
up tomorrow, Bob.
Hope to see you over the weekend.
Well, we're signing that. Next up will be the street parking program. Mr. Buckminster? And Mr. Sullivan is involved also in this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, great, thanks. Actually, I'll.
It's okay. Are you? Sal, would you want to turn off one of the light this way?
There you go, perfect.
Thank you.
It's gonna take the laptop a few minutes to warm up.
Okay. Well, Barry can start if you'd like. It's not an Apple product, obviously.
pretty much is the same thing that I just handed out to you. Actually, one of the colors didn't show up. It was supposed to be brown and not red, but it does show up on this one.
It's okay, I can't tell. Red, green, colorblind.
I was asked to take a look at the parking program that Niles Nygaard did for CETA a few months ago, and come up with something also that we could fit into what the town is looking to do. You've all received a packet describing the whole breakdown of it, and what it primarily touches on is, obviously we have some more kiosks showing up for certain areas in town, on street, in the 1 hour parking areas and 2 hour parking areas. And basically we wanted to identify spots where we don't need to charge for parking, areas that fall a little more in high demand areas, and also trying to protect some of the residents' parking up in the 1st Street through 9th, going around West Boulevard, South Boulevard, where all the beachgoers tend to park and take up all the parking there. So we looked at a few of the options that we had, and where we're starting into the season, we've already got a permit in place which would be able to cover these. We could tie it into this parking program as well for on-street parking, resident parking permits. They could pick up a few different options of guest pass and visitor passes and things like that. Do you want to just go through this page by page, or? Okay. The residential parking permit, if you see fit, it would be designated for the on-street parking zones which are marked out in green. That's resident only. It also allows access to the transfer station as well as Little Harbor Beach, Swiss Beach, and Swift's Neck parking lots. The current cost of the sticker, it actually hasn't changed. It had gone down a couple of years ago, is $30 for people under 65 years of age, and it's $15 for people 65 and up. I think we should probably use the sticker and accept it as part of the parking program. Plus, it gives them the option of using the transfer station and being able to dispose of stuff and get to the beaches and utilize different parts of town. They would be also allowed to grab a resident guest and a visitor pass parking. A visitor pass parking is not more than visitor pass is for if they're going to have guests there for 24 hours to 2 weeks, such as if you've got a 2-week rental. I know there's a few houses in there that are summer rentals where they could pick up a visitor's pass and give it to their renters, and they'd be able to utilize the on-street parking. This does not allow them to use the transfer station, though. It's strictly for the property owners that are actually issued the residential parking permit. The difficult one for the residents there is the guest pass. We wouldn't charge for the guest pass. It's if they have a guest coming down for a couple hours or overnight or something like that, they can, if they can pre-plan, they can get this free guest pass. I looked at parking programs all over the state, and there's quite a few places that do offer both of these options, and it seems to be working for them, especially with the no charge for the guests. I mean, they should have the right to be able to have somebody come by and be their guest for a day, basically. We'd be looking for the visitor's parking pass to be $5 per vehicle, and then it would be issued they could get up to 4 permits for their property. So if they have a large family, they come down and they're staying for the designated amount of time. Then after the 2 weeks, they can renew it if they'd like. The guest parking permit, it would be no charge. They can get up to 6 at a time. Once the time expires, they can get another one. The non-resident parking is a $50 sticker, which we already have in place, which only allows them right now to park at Swiss Beach and Swift's Neck. It doesn't allow any transfer stations, doesn't allow anything. However, this would be toned it's more for the boaters and onset that are coming in, where we don't want them taking up spaces on the pier to park. This is going to put them in, if they're a non-resident boater, they can get this sticker and they can park in the designated areas, which are marked in blue on the map. They'll be able to park in these areas for the time that they're down there. There's one area on the right that's aiming towards Ocean Avenue. That's a town road going down towards the trailer park. That's a large piece of town property that can be utilized for longer-term non-resident parking. If a boater's coming down, if they want to go 24 hours, 48 hours, if they want to do a 3-day adventure and park their car there, they would probably be able to utilize the space. Right now, that space is being utilized by residents of the trailer park. They've dumped asphalt. There's asphalt piles down there. There's unregistered trailers. I believe the dumpsters for the park are also on the property. They have quite a few things down there. So, the toughest one was coming up with a business parking plan, because I don't want to try not to be a burden to anybody that comes into here, but the businesses, obviously, they have a hit or miss time here, so everybody's trying to make some money, and I don't want to see them losing waitresses and staffing and things like that because of the parking. But I do think that we can offer some protection through the non-resident areas that are listed in blue, as well as a portion of the temple lot as a business parking area where they could actually bring their vehicles in. If the spaces aren't available, then they have to meet the different regulations that we put in place for parking. So the business owner could either purchase a $10 permit, a business permit for each individual employee, or he can hand them off to the different employees, and they can only be used during the times that they are actually working. If it's found that they are using them to basically go on the town after or things like that, the restaurant could be subject to losing that permit, and they would go back to, they'd have to work with the regular parking regulations that we have in place and not be able to utilize the business parking permit. And that it's basically up to the business owner to keep a watchful eye on that program, as well as us through the parking enforcement. It would be $10 per permit. They could either come in and purchase them, or if they sent us a letterhead stating that this person works for the restaurant under their title, we could issue them a $10 permit also to be able to use the business parking areas. Residential areas are listed throughout the program. One of the things I think that we really need to, and I know it's a touchy subject, is Heinz Field. I really think when you start looking at different programs such as Plymouth, they have areas that they offer free parking, and if we can go down there and line it like they do with the sports fields, and utilize some equipment, maybe the school department has something, and actually set that up so it's an organized parking area. It's field parking, but the buses can park down there, and if it's overflow, they can utilize those locations. I've also stressed that in one of the portions here for the Heinz Field parking. So pretty much that's it for my breakdown.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, because...
No, I couldn't open.
Oh,
Sorry.
on this one, which are the Browns?
Uh,
Just name the streets, please.
The brown would be the prohibited parking, and it would have been Union Street is what was requested by the police department.
Okay.
It would also be the little roadway that leads to, it's already in place as a no parking zone. I just marked it. It would be Wobbin Place, and I'm not sure what the second small line, right in line with where it says Union Avenue.
Yep.
Right there. So it would be those three little roads in a line, Union Street. There would be a portion of Highland Avenue because of the fire department needing to make turns for the fire trucks,
Right.
as well as East Central.
Okay, thank you. And you were talking about the town-owned land off Wobbin Place.
Yes.
How many cars could that hold? roughly, when you
You
get?
know, I think once we clean it up, you could probably fit 15, 20 cars maybe.
And that would be part of your, you're working here, you can park here stickers?
Yeah, the business employees would be able to park there, or non-resident, like a boat owner that wants to go out for a couple days, they can park their vehicles there. It is lit. I took a ride down there earlier, and it does have a large floodlight working on a pole that shines down into that parking zone.
So it's a safe area for young women to walk through
I
after
mean,
10 o'clock?
we could put a walkway through there, cutting up right through the park. I mean, it's not going to disrupt any of the growth. I know Director Menard looked at it and said it would be entirely possible to do if that's something that you would like to do. I know I have some spare floodlights too, that if they need to mount them in different poles or whatnot, that they could utilize.
I just think that public safety,
I understand. I think, unfortunately, we could see that anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so.
but if there's a way of, cutting the brush back and maybe...
Yeah,
letting
it definitely needs
Yeah.
it needs a
Who's going to do the
sprucing
cleaning up, and at whose expense?
It would have to be municipal maintenance. They'd have to go in there during one of their work hours, and we could point out what we need to get done.
And are we going to recover that money from the park owner? Thank you. And have you created a nightmare in terms of monitoring this?
Well, the police will have to do some on-street enforcement. They have to check some stickers, and I think that's all in pre-planning when we really get going. I think the seasonal police officers, anyway. I mean, they're out on patrol with their bikes. I can't speak for what their whole setup is, but I deal with most of the parking at Temple Lot, the pier, and the beaches. And the beaches work out good for us because we're already there checking people. So it takes 5 minutes to go through Little Harbor, even when it's busy, and just do double duty. So we all have to kind of pick up the pace here and wear a couple extra hats.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Tropiano?
Anything, I guess, I don't even know what to say, because we've been going around and around for this, I don't know, as long as I can remember, parking problems
Yep.
in Onset. And we're not creating any new parking spaces. We're just using the same old ones, only now we're going to charge a fee for people to use those spots. And what have we gained? And what about the people who are, once they buy a permit, they're going to be driving around and not find a space? They're going to say, well, I paid, but I don't have a place to park.
Well, I think what we're trying to do is one of the biggest problems of trying to find spaces was the non-resident beachgoers that were coming into the areas through the side streets and parking. A few times when I was actually up, sitting in certain areas watching the beach, I had people coming up to us saying, you want to see people dumping trash, go sit in front of my house and watch what they leave on the sidewalk when they're done with the beach. Basically, it is a permit parking. It would be a permit parking zone, basically.
Well, all of these streets, the people that live there have to use them. Most of them
Yep.
don't have parking areas in their yards. Matter of fact, the majority don't.
Right.
Some have created little areas that they can fit a car into or whatever. But there's really, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems is they can't get off the street. So they end up having to park on the street. So now, I can see giving out residential parking permits so residents can park. Simple as that. Non-residents, fend for yourself. Go to one of the parking lots that we have. I could see us setting up other parking areas like Heinz Field or something else, putting more kiosks up and, letting them use these other parking lots. But I'm concerned about the residents parking.
Absolutely. I do feel the same way. It was, something that I was asked to look into with
Right.
multiple programs here, and I tried to put together the most fair program that would be able to be handled for the town. So
I look at some of the areas here, and I see some that are time-limited parking, and some that will be no parking, and some that's residential, and some that is non-residential, and so on. And, this is a tough thing to get our hands around. At least for me, it is, because it's been going on forever.
Yep.
And once upon a time, we tried to create stickers and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and boy, did we get a lot of trouble about that. People just, they just didn't want to play the sticker game.
Right.
They're pretty upset by it, and we heard it loud and clear. And now we're going to go back to sort of the sticker game. I don't want to down you for the work you've done,
no.
because you've done
I
good work. It's just that I'm not sure that this is the answer. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. Look, if we're not creating any more parking spaces, then what are we actually doing? Except charging people money to park where they've been parking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The goal is to first off, is to take care of our residents, to allow them to park in front of their house, so that if they need to go down because they're out of mustard or something, have to run down the street, they
Right.
can come back and actually park in front of their house. They don't have non-residents going to the beach and parking in front of their house. It allows them and to their guests to be able to do that. That's one of the first stops. Then we migrate our day trippers to our paid parking lots that
Yeah,
are
that's where they gotta go.
that are empty for some of the portion of the day, and we try and fill those up. And I think this is our first step in getting our hand up, because we can keep on going around and around, but until you take the first step towards doing something, you never really. I know you've said we've worked on it in the past, but you know, I think it's time to try and take control of this. We're not creating extra parking, but we're finally trying to manage it, I think, as well.
So,
Okay, so I guess I get it. I get what we're trying to do, but I want to, look, I guess I'm willing to try the experiment and see how it works out, as long as we don't hurt the residents, because that's...
I feel exactly the same.
That's what's got to be. And if I get residents all of a sudden calling and they're having problems and there's issues and so on, then we're going to have to change it, tweak it, do something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think I'm willing to give it a try and see where we go with it. I think the fees should be non-existent or negligence as far as the residents are concerned. I don't see any reason why we should add another fee to a resident. And like you said, if they get the pass for the dump as well as the beach thing at the same time, then I guess it hasn't increased their costs at all. And at least they, which they probably have anyway.
Yep.
Most of us do. So that would be okay. But we got to keep the residents from paying any more money, because, we're asking them to pay more for their services and stuff coming up because we need it. I don't want to start nickel and diming them to death either, you know what I mean? So let's try to do something about that.
so may I, Mr. Chairman, ask Mr. Tropiano
Yeah,
a
go
question? Are you're suggesting that you would go along with the residential 30 or 15, depending how old you are, and then underneath the blue ones, would that be the same?
Well, I don't see any reason to have any non-residential parking on any street.
Yeah, I don't either.
They should
be
go to
honest
the
with you.
parking lots.
They can, yeah.
And if they can't find a spot in the parking lot, okay.
Yeah,
You know?
but my biggest concern with that is, like, we've got 600 moorings that are out in that harbor, and these they like the residents, they pay for those permits also to come down here and utilize the waterways. And for me personally, on this, what I look at more on this parking program is making sure that the people that do come down, that are active boaters out there, they do have a location to park, and that 10th Street section with that angled parking could serve the purpose of both a business parking area, non-resident, resident. As long as you got a permit to park in those blue sections, they could park there. So residents could park there also. It's just.
But if
that
you're
would be-
talking about,
Because you're going to be looking at, they're not here for a 2-hour dinner. They're here for a weekend.
right, so,
So
but,
I'm with you. I could care less
Yeah,
about the
I mean-
non-residents. I could care less.
if
Yep.
they're bringing their
I don't
boat on a
care.
trailer, then they can, offload all their stuff on the pier and go and park, and we can, first of all, it's 0.2 miles from Hines. Yes, there's Heartbreak Hill, but to get to the pier, it's just not going to kill anybody that I know of. So there is, of course, handicap parking available.
Yep.
And I honestly think, along with Mr. Tropiano, that the green ought to be more.
Well, the blue is, why would the person on Highland Ave have to share their parking with non-residents when
I
the
don't see
people
that
down
they
on
should.
Pleasant Ave don't have to?
That's-
There's only like 4 or 5 cars on the Highland Ave section, that blue section. I went down there a few times looking at different cars when they're parking at different times.
Yeah, it's not
And
summer
we're
yet.
looking at 5 to 7. And if one of the things that you could do with Highland Avenue is because it is so wide, you could actually add more parking on an angled parking as you do on 10th Street, and you could possibly turn that into a one-way section because it branches off at the corner of 11th Street. You can take a left or you can take a right to get out of there and come around. So by turning that into a one-way area instead of getting two-way traffic, you would gain 20 parking spots, if
And you know
not.
what? And I think that's something we should do,
Yeah.
but I don't see any reason to put non-residents down on any of our roads. I just don't.
Yeah, and I can understand the point. When I look at sort of the big picture of what we're trying to do down in the onset area as well, with the and I'm going to call it the ferry, but the launch going back and forth, we're trying to bring those boaters in, not just to come, go out to their boat, sit there all night. We're trying to make it so it's a spot they can come and spend money at the restaurants, bring it
Yep.
into the shops. And I think having this parking available is going to be one of the components. If you look at that, I mean, percentage-wise, that is a tiny percentage of what we're doing. And this is the first time that these residents in this area are going to be protected from non-resident parking. And if we're steering them into the right direction, and they can stay, go back and forth 3 days. I really think that's bringing some money into our businesses in onset.
Well,
But you still need to be able to, I mean, you're giving them, okay, Ralph Grab a Sandwich comes down for a weekend. He comes down on Thursday and he leaves on Tuesday. That's a long weekend, okay? And in that time, he's got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. He's got basically a whole week's worth of parking, particularly the weekend, for $50. Are you kidding me? I mean, if you parked on the pier, it's going to cost you how much a day?
But that's the permit that we charge right now for a
Right.
non-resident, to not go into something completely different. I mean, we're trying to utilize the things that we already have in place, and hopefully
I
a lot of
understand
these
that.
people are already utilizing the service of that sticker.
But part of what your ferry, it's not a ferry, it's a
Launch.
launch
Yep.
service, which I think is going to be very helpful. Couldn't that be tied in with, like an owl bus or something that picks people up and brings them to the pier?
That's, again, that's a private busing company, so if they wanted
They
to
make
work with us
money.
to be able to make things happen, Heinz Field, it's got a bus stop, it's got an area where you could actually wait, but do they really, and this isn't through discussions with them, but do they want to run that back and forth all the time?
Well, I don't know, what, Woburn Place, how long is that? That's just a little
Down-
tongue
It's
of
just
it?
it's just a
The little tiny piece,
it's a little
right?
cut through that goes, yeah,
And that's Brown, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
Brian.
And then
Yep.
what's the street, which doesn't show, from Woburn Place back that crosses Highland and East Central Street? What's that street?
it's around.
The blue one, that would be 10th.
Well, it goes blue and then it
Yep,
comes
that's
red.
that's
and-
10. The
So you have a piece of Highland and a piece of 10th.
correct.
Now, so the people on 10th and the people on that part of Highland have to fight with the non-residents. But yet, I'm down here on Pleasant Street, 5th or 4th, I don't have to fight with the non-residents because they can't just park in front of my house.
Well, the small stretches on Woburn and the two other streets, they're actually there's no street parking there at all. And then the section of 10th, which is not colored properly on your map, is supposed to be brown because there's no parking in that section anyway.
But this blue area
Yep.
that's on the street, and you're telling me that street that cuts across is 10th.
Yes, correct.
So that piece that's blue, from there to Highland.
Yep.
From, Union Ave to Highland,
Correct.
that's blue, there's houses on that street.
No, that's the tennis courts and the basketball court.
Okay, so there's no houses there at all?
No, nothing at all.
So there wouldn't be any argument as far as that's concerned. Okay, how about from 11th to the halfway point of Highland? Is there houses on that point? The blue, the next blue section.
There are houses on the left-hand side of the road.
So there's houses on the left-hand side?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the section I was talking about. There's probably 5, 6, 7 cars there.
Yeah, and that's
At
where
any
we're
given
trying to
time.
expand the parking there to help mitigate any issues. to
And
the
some of the
residents.
houses there do also have driveways.
And that's the Hammond School.
You know what, I think that onset, we have moorings out there, and people come here, and let me tell you something, it's a privilege to have one of those moorings. To have a mooring right in Onset Center and all that, I mean, and you know, there's lots of people who would love to have moorings, and these guys have had them, some people have had them forever, and they do whatever, and that's great.
Right.
But I don't think I have to supply parking for them that's unpaid or anything else. They can go to the parking lots and park, as far as I'm concerned.
One thing I have to look at, though, is it's not the town of Wareham's waterways. It's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts waterways.
I understand that, but you know, it's this, they would, let's put it this way. It belongs to the Commonwealth.
Yep.
But it's in our control, or our
Exactly.
purview.
And those
okay?
are not Commonwealth, those two locations are not under the Commonwealth, like, for instance, Tempest Knob is on the Wareham River.
Right.
Well, the waterway itself is,
The waterway.
Yes, but there's no, rampway or anything
No.
like that, as there is on the Agawam. There are, what, 3 places in town?
for boat launching?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so they can get to the water. It's not a biggie.
And let me tell you, they're gonna get there.
Yeah.
If their boat is there, they're gonna get there. They'll find a place, they'll go park in the parking lots, they'll do whatever they have to do
Yep.
to go down and use their boats. We don't have to supply them any parking at all.
This was a very heated debate last year when this parking program came in, and they did voice their opinions regarding this. And I'm just trying to
They being
resolve.
the
They
non-residents?
as with a army of boaters that were residents, that were non-residents, that came in here to the meeting to discuss this issue. That was addressed probably back in July of last year, maybe early August. So I'm just trying to find a way that they can purchase a non-resident sticker to be able to come in here and park in small designated areas. I mean, we're not asking for street upon street to be non-resident here. We're talking 2 streets in one area, which is town property.
I can tell you that I will not vote to allow non-residents to park in residential areas. Done. Simple. Just not gonna do
Okay.
it.
It's subject to change. I mean, I just proposed.
I'm just
brought it for you.
saying, I just don't see it. I don't care about you having your boat in our harbor. You wanna come here, you wanna use the harbor, great. It's there for you, it's wonderful, whatever, but I'm not gonna inconvenience my residents under any circumstances at all, because you wanna come from, I don't know, someplace up north and come down here and use our waterways and, have some fun. That's fine, but you're gonna do it on my terms, not yours.
Can we come to concessions on 10th Street? Angle parking going along with the,
We can do the angle parking because there's nothing there. There's
Yep.
no houses, so I don't care about that. I'm not fighting residents. But on the other side, I got houses, so I don't want to deal with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And if we put angle parking in there and you get more space, it's okay with me. But I don't want to argue with people that need parking in front of their houses and stuff. No way.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Mr. Tropiano, what about this little doohickey down here?
I don't know what that doohickey is. It doesn't say.
Well, is that the parking
By
lot?
the mobile home
off the
park.
mobile home park?
Yes.
Correct.
That's what that is.
Okay, so
The right
I would
side.
say that one ought to be for the people who work, particularly the night shifts at any one of the businesses here. That specific area, I don't even know what its name is, we'll call it Mobile Home Blue or something.
gotcha.
That's where people who are working in any one of those areas could go. And again, I'm actually going to disagree with Mr. Tropiano, because I think that none of 10th should be non-resident.
Really?
Well,
There's no
I'm not
houses.
gonna, I know that, but you know what? You ever been down there on a Sunday when it's hot and it's muggy and everybody's in a bad mood and you can't get a fire engine through there, you cannot get an ambulance through there, and you certainly have, real problems with accessibility to structures. I think this is a really good first step.
Mhm.
And I think that the residents, particularly on the point, will be much happier. Somebody's going to be writing a lot of tickets. But I just don't, I'll go along with it because I don't want to be that difficult, but, well, maybe I do. No, I don't. Why? I'll go along with it, Mr. Buckminster and Mr.
It's
Tropiano.
whatever you want.
Okay.
But I
Town
think-
administrator, I'm just
Yeah, no, I'm just
dropping
saying
this
that I
off to let
yeah,
you guys look at.
really,
what
really
we
think
tried
that you
find.
need to take care of and they're mostly kids who are working those late shifts.
Well, I think when you read through the whole packet,
I did.
yeah, we've tried to make it so that also they can be around areas that are, that they can park in, that can be closer to the businesses and such. Again, I understand what you're saying, but also having long-term parking for the boaters. Don't forget our residents that are boaters as well, and that's some of those blue areas as well, especially the down by the mobile home park.
Well, but if they're
So-
residents, then they have a sticker, they have a resident sticker, and they can go
Yeah.
park anywhere.
Does a resident sticker allow you to park a boat trailer on the road?
It's attached to the vehicle.
Well, I think we ought to
It's
address
ex-
that because that's 2 or 3 car lengths. Yeah, I know.
That's an answer for the police department. The police department would have to answer
So
that.
we've started this step with sort of, and the work that Mr. Buckminster put in there, I've greatly appreciated. I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
Mm.
No
We've gone
problem.
with the KISS principle on this one.
No,
So-
absolutely.
Oh, I knew coming into this, I was gonna there's gonna be a bullseye. Just unfortunately, I gotta present it. So,
I did, he did step up when I asked for this one, so I greatly appreciate that one.
Look, I appreciate what you've done.
No,
here.
no,
Trust
I-
me,
listen,
I
this is
appreciate you
something-
doing the research, I appreciate it all. Just because I have a disagreement doesn't mean that I don't appreciate what you do.
Oh, no,
And
not-
what you've
not
done,
at
I
all.
really do.
this was all what we needed to do is we need to sit down and fine tune this to what is gonna work in the best interest of everybody. I mean, primarily the residents, but I mean, I have to look at the interests of the voters too. And working with this program, I have to add that in.
I think if you aim them toward the Heinz Field lot, that's
Yeah.
probably a really good solution. Again, drop your stuff and hike back.
And I appreciate, and I'm sorry to interrupt, obviously Mr. Pina and the CETA for the study that they performed,
Yeah.
which gave us a lot of information. So
Yeah.
thank
The
you.
Niles Nygaard one was very detailed.
Gary, I have a question for you. The cost to get this ready needs for first phase. Are we going to be using parking funds that we have already, or?
That's going to be addressed by the
Yeah,
town
we
administrator.
would, with the kiosk coming in and the installation, we should still have, I would say about $2,000 left on there, but there's going to be signage, there's going to be a lot of costs to this. Unfortunately, that will be in this fiscal year. If you remember last year, we only had approximately 25,000 left in the account, so we had to use that for the new kiosks. We do anticipate building up a good amount of reserve this year out of it. So, but this year it would have to be from probably 2 sources. What we have left in the article, and we're going to have to see departmentally whether it's going to be asking around, saying who's ready to support this, whether it's expenses from my budget or municipal maintenance. So see what we can do.
I've gone through this earlier. Gary showed me this particular plan a little while ago. We went through all of it. I've done boating for a long time in a lot of different areas. Even the marinas have serious issues with parking in that area. If you look at Onset Bay Marina, it used to be get there earlier or else walk for a couple miles to find a place. I think we should probably try and get the residential areas dialed in and get that going, because if you look at the study that Sal did with CETA, it wasn't a matter of we didn't have enough spaces. It was an area we weren't maximizing the use of the spaces properly. So where people have residents, where someone goes to the beach, and what happens is that if you look a lot of times, you'll find the kiosk, especially the upper kiosk, the lot's empty most of the times because people have to pay. So what they do is they drive up and down the streets and they park in front of anybody's residence house they can find. If we make that area residential only, that forces people to go up into the kiosk area, which is one of the major problems. Because again, that study showed very few times at all in a weekend where we actually ran out of spaces. This is really just allocating spaces where they need to be allocated. And I think it's important to get this done. The residents were more than a little vehement about having parking, for their guests, for themselves, and being very upset with people coming in and just parking, coming in with, unloading the coolers, coming back, dumping stuff, etc. It doesn't generate a lot of income for the town either when it works that way.
No, and
So-
I agree that we were seeing weeks with the Temple lot where there wasn't anybody
It was
parking
empty.
there.
I mean, I've gone through.
And what they were
quite a
doing
bit.
was they were parking at 10th Street at the angle parking because there were no regulations set for it. So
Right.
you fill up 45 spots there that could have been pushed into this zone through protection around the parking area.
Well,
So
my opinion is we should basically let's get the residential piece in and just take a little step back and look closely at the other piece. But
Yep.
I think you're going to have to, because you're a summer community, you're a boating community as well, you're going to have to provide some place for people that have moorings. It's your responsibility. If you give someone a mooring, you're also supposed to have a way if they drive down a park somewhere. It's not hit or miss. I know you and I will disagree, because what happens in other towns, they provide parking areas for people with moorings.
You know, we pay, what do they pay for mooring?
$75 plus $2 a foot.
$75 plus $2 a foot.
Plus we get the
And that,
boat.
we're gonna supply them with parking too?
Oh, no,
They
they're
pay for their
paying
parking.
the
They
parking.
pay $50 a year, that's nothing.
That's what they usually.
We also
charge.
collect their boat excise tax.
Yeah.
The town of Marion, they do their mooring permit, and all non-residents are required to buy a $100 non-resident parking sticker
Yeah.
if you do not live in town to be able to park at Island Wharf, which is a good-sized parking area, and it's right in the center of Marion.
I'm not saying that we don't have to have parking for them, I just say let's send them to the areas where they have to pay,
Well, that's
Simple.
what we're talking about, trying to do.
not in my residential
Yeah.
area.
I
But
would
I mean,
al-
for somebody that, we have people that come on their boats every weekend, and now they're gonna park in a pay-by-the-hour area. They're gonna come down and pay $22 an hour to park at the onset pier, or go up to the other lot and pay. I just think we're just hitting them. It's just not.
They can go to the,
They're
they're going
non-residents.
to the Heinz
Yeah,
Field.
but
And they can,
Too bad.
they're still utilizing the businesses in town. They're still utilizing
Right, but-
this area. But I'm not trying to fight against it, but I think it's something that we need to be able to offer them something.
we are offering them
Yeah,
something.
we-
They have a mooring in a very safe harbor,
In a beautiful place.
beautiful harbor, with a fully staffed harbor master's office, fabulous up-to-date equipment, easy access to the canal, easy access to some of the best fishing.
There's no doubt that it's a great location.
Yeah,
And we're just looking at a couple areas that are not very extreme for them to be able to utilize. And basically, once those spots are filled, they have to go to either a paid lot or they have to seek alternate parking. So,
I would suggest that we either get a hold of GATRA, just ask them if
Mm-hmm.
they have an interest in running a shuttle service. If we're going to use Heinz Field, at
you
that
said
point,
there's a bus stop there anyway.
well, there's a bus stop, but there's really no service per se.
The bus goes through the middle.
There's no,
I don't think they want to drive down through Walmart first and then come around, unfortunately.
it's not, what we're talking about is having a small jitney service where you would service Onset Village. We've talked about this with the businesses before. The businesses themselves might do that, but
Yeah, I mean,
let's
it makes
go-
all the sense in the world to have, like a little trolley thingy.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have an ice cream cone while you go get your bags from your boat. Awesome.
so, the board's
Gary,
indulgence.
mental note.
Do you want to
sell-
agree
sell
that we
ice
do
cream
the
on launch.
residential first?
So,
Yes, I would move that we go with the residential green
Okay.
program first. And again, like,
And let's go back to
No
the
problem.
other piece of it and dial it in a little more and come back in a couple weeks,
Sounds like a plan.
all right?
and thank you very much.
We'd like to get
No
this.
problem.
not-
Come by the office at some point. I mean, this is not something I really want to be doing right now, but
Well, you and I already talked about this. so,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the answers is sort of figuring out where the other places are. And that, yeah, you are doing double duty, and I
that's
appreciate
fine.
it.
I don't know what's going faster, the gray or just losing it completely, but
It's okay. We want to get this up and running by June
Thank you.
1st?
no problem.
Oh,
June 1st?
before.
Yes, actually, the kiosks will be in operation May 1st.
May 1st for the kiosks. When do you want to get this
Before.
piece done?
So it'll be, I think we'll be doing the kiosks, it'll be due up till the 15th, we'll be running weekends only, then from the 15th on, we'll do 7 days a week.
how are you gonna let the residents know?
You need to, you need to.
Yeah, we're
get it
going, we're
done.
going to have to reach out to the residents on this. I know there's been some, we've informally spoke to some of them, just polling them, but it's definitely something we're going to have to get out and hold a meeting in that area. There's a few things I think, we've put together that I think it's going to help our residents, and that was goal one, so.
I think you need to get the signage up fast, though, because you don't want to
Yep.
have the same problem we did with I'm not saying the word out loud, barrels.
You know, it's interesting because I'm a boater. Go to Martha's Vineyard a lot. Use the moorings in the harbor a lot. Bring my car over. They don't have any parking spaces for me. As a matter of fact, there is no place I can park without paying. No place at all. If I park on the street without a residential sticker, I'm gone. In 10 minutes, I'll be out of there.
Yep.
So I have to find and go to one of the paid parking lots like everybody else with my car. And I'm a boater, and I do it. And I don't see any reason why anybody else who comes here and uses that water and uses the things can't find a parking space in a parking lot. They don't need to park on the streets where the residents park. I'm sorry, those residents are residents all year round. They're the people who live here, pay the taxes here. They make it possible for those streets to be there. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't care about the boater who comes here from East Overshoe. He can go to a paid parking lot. Simple. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And by the way, please don't take it personal. Okay?
Not at all.
It really has nothing to do with you because
No
you did a
worries.
wonderful job.
Not a problem. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Gary.
He definitely wasn't the one that keyed your car.
Not yet.
No, yeah. No, but some boater probably did. Some boater drove from New Hampshire. He's on his way down now.
Next up is CETA. Evening, Sal. Evening, Jean.
Good evening.
This is just our monthly update. Basically, I think what we're really interested in is how we're doing with downtown and if there's any other initiatives you have coming up that we don't know about. That's it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, good news about the downtown is that we are very much ahead of schedule. Coal planing for the road is scheduled for the 29th of April, and I believe they're going to pave the road the very next day. So we should actually be pretty much complete by the end of April. The only thing, the only concern we have, which I don't think will have an impact on anything, will be putting up the light poles and the benches. Those are on order, and those are always the things that take the longest. But they'll certainly be done before the end of May, so that's not a problem. But the job should be complete by the end of the month. We also, other thing I should mention is we ordered banners. I know we've still got the "'Tis the Season" banners up, but we've ordered banners for the summer. New banners that will feature the summer celebration logo, and those will should be here in a couple of weeks. So we'll have those up as well.
That's it.
Well, that's it about the road. Yeah. So unless you have questions.
You want to say anything? No. I like some of the things you do, Sal. I like you're kind of a go-getter, and I like that a lot.
Thank you.
I don't like the road design at all, just so you know. I hate those bump outs.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a loader, I would drive down there and take every one of them out and make the curb straight again. Because it's the most awful thing I ever saw. The fire department now comes out of that thing, and if they're going to take a right, they got to go between two sets of bump outs. God forbid if there's any cars on that road. They're not getting out of there too easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, it's just an awful thing, those things. I love the whole bricks and the sidewalk and the nice things, you know, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves that. And the benches to sit on. You know, this is really nice, and it makes the street look good. But I think we could have done without those bump outs.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard, I don't think I've talked to a person that hasn't hit one of them yet.
Mm-hmm.
Really, everybody's hitting them, or especially in the end where they round the corner there, that one that sticks out and bites you right there. I mean, these are awful. Who designed this stuff? I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah. All I can tell you is that design.
In his defense,
I'm not blaming
he
him.
came in
Don't.
to do the work. The design was done in 2007.
Yeah, I'm not blaming him, but I
Yeah.
see the same
Yeah.
thing. They're doing it in Bourne too.
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing. Although in Bourne, the new one is straight. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, they stopped the whole bump out thing and they went straight. They took the bump outs out of the next section.
No, they added some.
But it's a
in.
much wider road.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if you travel through small towns, I guess that was the error when they recommended the bump outs. There isn't a small town as you travel south that doesn't have bump outs and roadway in each direction in their main streets. It's the way when they've redesigned them or revitalized them, that's what they've done. Maybe they'll all rethink it, and next time it's done, they'll take them all out.
Well, I noticed that when they were taking the snow this year off the street, that there were big piles where the bump outs were because they couldn't get it out of there. So they would come along, and as the loader would come down, it's pushing the snow, and we're not leaving a big pile there, and the only way they're going to get it out of there is like take a shovel or take a machine and try to do it, and of course then you'd hit the tree, and you'd wreck the tree, so they just left it there. So there were big piles in these places that were never there before. Before they used to be able to clean that thing right on down, it was beautiful. And like I say, I love the whole brick thing, the nice look, and the benches and the things. I love all that, but I just don't have much use for those bump outs at all. And I bet there's a lot of residents who would love to go down there and tear those things out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I think people.
And I'm not blaming you for
Yeah,
it.
no,
Don't
and
get me
I know
wrong.
you're not. And
Don't get me wrong.
You're expressing your frustration.
Exactly. It's
It's
just
great that you.
frustrating.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would just say for folks, because this comes up, I've certainly addressed this issue a number of times, but I think that the bump outs were designed originally. The concept behind the bump outs is to narrow the street
Slow the
for
traffic.
people, pedestrians who are crossing the street. And they also serve as what's called traffic calming devices to slow traffic down.
Have you
So-
ever stood on Main Street in the middle of the day? No. People go 50 miles an hour on that street.
Yeah, but I will tell you this: I've stood on a bump out and people have stopped for me, and I think if you imagine, I mean, the example I always give, I know it's probably it's probably not as a common example as you might see, but if you were in a wheelchair, for example, and you were trying to cross that street, you'd have to basically stick your head out behind cars, because if you stand on a bump out and you look down the street, you'll see that those bump outs go no farther out than a car does. In fact, they're about 6 inches inside of a car that's parked. So say I ask you to stand there and look, and you'd see. So now somebody in a wheelchair pulling themselves out to the bump out, they're still on the sidewalk. And so they can still see the line of cars, look behind, and see that whether it's safe or not. So I think that, and again, you can certainly choose to not like them, but I'm trying to just express the rationale behind the design, that they weren't just some arbitrary design that somebody just put in because they thought it looked pretty.
No, actually, that's interesting to know, because I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I
didn't
think most people
realize
don't know it, which
that
is
they were to stand on to be able to look around the traffic. I really didn't know that. This is the first time I've heard that.
yeah.
First time
Well,
I've
I'm glad we had the opportunity to chat about
So
it. 'Cause-
that does, that sort of makes me feel a little better about
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Imagine a woman or a man with 2 or 3 little kids, in tow, and they're trying to cross
I get
the
it.
street.
I get that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the
so-
first time I've heard this, by the
Yeah.
way. So.
Well, I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it then.
I can tell you that there is a sign, if you stand in front of the post office, okay, and the post office is over here, and behind you, there's a street pole, or there's a sign, and it's really difficult to see the crosswalk from there. The sign actually blocks your vision.
Are you saying as a pedestrian or a driver?
Pedestrian and driver. I've seen, yeah, I mean, I've actually seen when we were, standing on the sidewalks, cars just go paying no attention because they didn't see the pedestrian.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Yeah.
Those are all. I mean, again, things look good on paper sometime, and then
Yep.
the practical application.
I think it looks really nice. I
Yeah.
agree with Mr. Tropiano.
Yeah.
I just happen to have tagged 3 of them.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Any new projects or anything coming down the line?
One thing that I did want to mention was just that I've been meeting with the Cape Cod Canal Chamber, and last year, we put together a luncheon. We partnered to put a luncheon together for tourism, and this year we're trying to put another luncheon together. We're just trying to confirm the date. We think it's going to be May 29th, and what we're going to do is focus on the key changes, some of the key changes that are happening here in Wareham. So we're trying to invite some folks to come down from the Cape Rail, and some folks that would come down from the hotel. and also the gentleman at the golf course to talk about their plans and to have a discussion about how those plans will impact business going forward. So we're really excited about it. We think it's looks like a very dynamic program, and I'll know more in about a week or so.
Okay. Board have any questions?
Thank you for the work you do.
Gene?
Patrick?
No,
I
I'm
guess the
good.
only thing I was going to mention that we did discuss with Mr. Chairman Slavin and Peter Titlebaum, that we'd like to hold a workshop with the selectmen after town meeting, because we're now starting to look at 2015 grant, we can come up with some projects, but we'd really like to focus on the years after that, so we can look at something that's going to cost some money over 3 or 4 years. And it would be better if we were all on the same page, so then when we start to design it, we don't want to walk in here at the end of the term and say, surprise, here it is. We just want to be sure that everybody's comfortable with whatever we decide to do.
If you
No
will,
bump outs.
if you will get some paperwork together with what you want to discuss to us ahead of time, and then we can put it on the agenda.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That's you're doing nice work, though. I just want you guys to know that I know that there's communities that do absolutely nothing in this vein and move in this direction, and if anything, very little. And at least you're I mean, you got obviously your ears to the ground. You're paying attention, and you're doing good.
Thank you.
The other thing
Really
that you do
appreciate
is you do listen to us, and you do change direction if you are able to do so, and I think
Mhm.
that's really important. For instance, the money going to housing and that kind of
Mhm.
thing, that was a concern that we had, that you were able to back into, and certainly the community grants are very important.
Mhm. Yeah, that number increased to $300,000.
I
yeah.
know, that's
So,
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next up, discussion with Energy, Department of Energy and Resource.
Seth,
Seth,
it's all you.
come on down, you're the next contestant.
Derek, I have my presentation on a stick. Would take,
We can try it.
Well-
try.
well, I don't need it. It's just
We'll give it a try.
do you have the handout to
We have
follow?
it here.
I can try it so some of the people at home maybe can see some of the stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me being there?
If that's already fired up. No, I have to
But we gotta work it.
plug that in.
You know, he's right, though, it did warm up, look at how clear it is now. Remember how it's all foggy and stuff? So he's right. Needed a little time.
Well, I don't want to be too long, so if it takes as long as the last time.
We'll just go ahead.
We'll go ahead like this.
Do you have any grants for laptops for us?
No, I don't. Maybe I can help you find some. We'll see. Mr. Chairman, Board, and Derek, thanks very much for asking me to come and talk with you tonight. I do have a presentation, but you can feel free to ask any questions anytime you want.
They will.
I've met with Alan a number of different times in different forums, and this is not the first time I've been to Wareham, but first time I've had a chance to talk to the Select Board. So briefly, I am the regional coordinator for the Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Division here in the Southeast region. There's some background in here on how we were created. My division was created by the Green Communities Act. Talks about some of the priorities of the administration. But our division is available to all the municipalities here in Massachusetts, all 351 municipalities, for anything that's energy related. We like to see towns form an energy committee if possible. We also like them to basically look at things like their schools, buildings, fleets, try to get a baseline for their energy usage so that they can get an idea of what they're using and where. We also encourage interaction between the municipalities and the utilities to hopefully take advantage of all of their energy efficiency programs. So our biggest program is the Green Communities Grant Program. Are you guys familiar with it at all? All right. Towns are required to meet 5 different criteria. 2 of them are zoning related. Another one asks that a baseline, energy baseline be established for the town, and then you develop a 5-year plan to reduce from that baseline by 20%. We also ask towns to adopt a fuel-efficient vehicle purchase policy. That's for moving forward. It's not retrospective at all. And the last requirement is that the town adopt the energy stretch code, which is a more energy-efficient building code than the base code. Although that's going to change pretty soon. As of July 1st of this year, the new energy base code in Massachusetts is going to be incrementally not very different from the stretch code. So in the past, if you've heard that there's a large incremental cost increase for new residential construction for a stretch code house, that increment, which we thought was only about $1 a square foot to start with, is going to be even smaller. So the 5 requirements are laid out there in one of the slides. The first 2, as I said, are zoning related. The town, if it chooses, can adopt what we call as-of-right siting for a number of different options. You don't have to do them all. You can pick and choose if that's what the town prefers to do. The first ones can be for renewable generation, which can be for things like wind or solar. Or if you don't want to go that route, you can also designate existing industrial land for manufacturing or research and development. We have model bylaws at our website, so you can take a look at what we're asking for on that. And I'll get into some of the details. But for wind, it would have to be a ground-mounted wind system that would be 600 kilowatts or greater. So the Mass Maritime turbine is a 650, so it would have to be at least that big. And then in terms of ground-mounted solar, it would have to be able to sustain a 250 kilowatt system, which is really probably just a little over an acre as a rule of thumb. But that's not a very big system, and a number of your neighbors have put in systems in areas like capped and closed landfills that are substantially bigger than that. Pardon me?
We're doing one at the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah, you're doing a study, right?
We're actually going to put it in.
It's a go?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've heard a little bit about that. I didn't know it was quite that far along.
It's 2.2 kilowatt.
I was going to say, it's right around 2 megs, right?
Yeah, actually 2.2.
Yep.
And I actually had somebody approach me today who has a parcel of land that's in a pretty prime area that wants to do a solar project.
Okay. So our requirement, when we say as-of-right siting, it takes the special permit process out, okay? But you would write your zoning bylaw with enough requirements in the plan review checklist to effectively do the same thing as what you would require in a special permit. It gives a potential developer the surety that if they meet the requirements that are in the zoning bylaw, they'll get cited. So it doesn't take any control away from the town. You get to put in your terms what you want and where you want those things to go, and you can do discrete portions of your zoning map. You don't have to do the whole town. The second requirement is expedited permitting, a 12-month or less permitting process for anything that is subject to criteria 1, which is the as-of-right siting. Most towns already have those types of requirements. You can either put it in the bylaw, you can do a separate bylaw, or if you already do that as a course of business here in town, town council can write a letter that basically states that that's the way Wareham already does business. The third requirement, I recommend that every town in my region do, whether they're going to be designated or they want to seek designation or not. It's really important to know how much energy you're using and where you're using it. DOER offers free energy tracking software to all our municipalities. It's called Mass Energy Insight. You'll see something in the back part of this presentation about it. It's a terrific tool. Being an N-Star town, all of your electric and gas account data for usage for sure would be automatically loaded into the system once you have basically done some upfront dashboard work to assign accounts to different buildings, departments, however you want to do it. But in terms of your usage, that would be automatically uploaded by the utilities at least every quarter, if not every month. Derek, do you guys currently have a third-party competitive supplier for energy?
Yes, and I think actually we're almost up on the contracts.
Okay.
We're going to have to go out again.
So if that's the case, this system does have the ability to take data that you would get from your third party for costing. The initial costing would just be your NSTAR information that comes on your NSTAR bill. Do you know if you get two separate bills?
Yeah, we need to combine them actually
Okay.
for a solar project.
And you can actually ask, next time you go out for the bid, I mean, you could ask your third-party provider to either work with NSTAR to provide one bill, or ask them to provide the data in a spreadsheet that you could easily and automatically upload into Mass Energy Insight. So it really cuts down, it helps on the accuracy, and it also cuts down on the amount of keystrokes that might have to be done at Town Hall or wherever the cost centers would be for energy. The fourth requirement is the fuel-efficient vehicle policy. Just catch up a little bit here. On that one, most of your vehicles in town are going to be exempt from that policy. Any of your police cruisers, any of your emergency response stuff, anything that's got a gross vehicle weight of 8,500 pounds or greater is going to be exempt from the policy. That policy really targets the past practice of recycling police cruisers for administrative vehicles that they're no longer police cruisers. Again, this is, in my opinion, a fairly easy requirement to meet. It does not mean you have to do hybrids. It doesn't mean you have to do anything, that's really over the top. But if the assessors, or if the building inspector, or if, there are a few vehicles in town that are still administrative in nature, when new vehicles would be purchased, you'd have to look at the policy. You'd have to make sure that the vehicle that you're purchasing meets the mile per gallon rating for whatever it might be, whether it's a 2- or a 4-wheel drive pickup truck, or whether it's an SUV, or whether it's just, a car.
It says purchase. Does that mean the lease, anything that we leased as well?
If you lease vehicles and you don't own them, they don't fall under that.
Right.
They don't even go into your baseline. School buses are a good example of that. You guys probably lease, or you have an agree. You don't own your school buses, do you?
We own them. We own
You
them.
do.
Yeah.
You are unusual.
Yeah, we are.
So that would go into your baseline, but as an example, if you lease them, or if you had a contract, then that fuel usage would not go into your baseline. Fifth thing, stretch energy code. And when you look at the graphics here for the participation in my part of the state, that's been the biggest pushback in the region. We're finally making a few breakthroughs. Acushnet, in terms of a South Coast community, adopted the stretch code and is now designated as a green community. Lakeville, also not too far away. But as I said before, the difference between the stretch
You want to
code...
explain stretch code for all the people here?
Yeah, the stretch code is the energy portion of the building code here in Massachusetts. There's the base code, and then there's what's called the stretch code. Previously, that stretch code was about 15 to 20% more energy efficient than the base code. And we believe that if new residential construction is the most affected section of the construction industry, we feel, based on our studies, it would cost an extra $1, maybe a little bit more per square foot to build a stretch code home. We also feel that this energy savings that you would realize in a home built that way would pay you back in a year, maybe just a little bit longer. And then you get to keep that savings into the future.
So the code, you would build a regular 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home or something like that.
Yep.
And it might cost you,
So how big? 3,000 square feet?
no, 2?
2,000?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So all of your utilities, all of your refrigerators and things like that would also have to be,
Right, the stretch code incorporates a number of different, energy efficiency things,
Okay.
like Energy Star built homes. Have you ever heard of that? So there, as part of the building permit process, the builder would have to hire what's called a HERS rater. The HERS rater would incorporate a number of different design requirements into his HERS rating, which is a home energy rating system. That's what HERS stands for. And then that would be part of the building permit application. And so we'd have to meet a certain number. If it was a home that was 3,000 square feet or less, it would have to be a 70, and if it was bigger than that, it would have to be a 65. All sorts of things go into that. The insulation, the lighting, the appliances, all sorts of different things go into that.
is the program old enough to know what the resale value of those homes is?
I would say that we're still getting a feel for that, but it's a much more it's a much more asked about aspect of people that are purchasing homes.
Okay.
Whether or not it's an Energy Star home, whether or not it was built in accordance with the stretch code. Stretch code's only been in place for a little over 4 years.
Thank you.
Okay? So, it would also, new residential construction requires what's called a HERS rating, and also that requires a performance test. The house is required to have a blower door test, and any of the ducting is also needs to be tested. So, I built a house in 1999, and my house was built according to a code, but I can tell you it's never performed to that code because it was built, off a checklist. Basically, yes, we did this, yes, we did that, but it was never tested. House that's built according to stretch code is tested, so that not only do you know that it was built according to the code, but it's going to perform to the code. The new base code that will be the new energy base code here in Massachusetts as of July 1 is going to require performance testing also. So that's the trend here in Massachusetts. Every 3 years the building energy code is going to be updated, and I can say comfortably now, and I didn't used to say this before this newest version of the base code came out. If you vote in the stretch code in your town, you're really only getting 2 to 3 years ahead of what the energy building code is going to be in the future. And you need to be a stretch code town to be eligible to become a green community. So.
And when you're eligible, you have grants available.
Yep, absolutely. So if you look at the slide that has the state map on it with all the we're up to 123 green communities. One of them's the stretch code, one of them's the green communities.
134.
That's stretch code.
Okay.
123 on green communities. We had 2 recently here in the southeast part of the state. Plimpton and Acushnet just came on board. And then if you go to the next one, you'll see we have 134 stretch code communities. And again, lots of white space down here in my region. So we're working on it. But then, this is probably the kind of thing that you're interested in the next one. How the grants are calculated, and once you become designated, you're told what your grant amount will be. There's just a little under, 22,000 people living in town now?
Mm-hmm.
Is that about right?
Yes.
In the
24.
No, 22,
22.
just under 22.
Yeah, when I checked today, it said like 22,
Okay.
8, 9, something like that. So there's a base grant of 125,000, and then that's escalated based on population and per capita income. And so if I were guesstimating based on your population and what the Wareham per capita income is based on mean here in Massachusetts, you'd probably be eligible for somewhere between $165,000 and $180,000 for your initial grant. So we've given away almost $30 million so far since 2009. And the types of projects that we've funded are, for the most part, all energy conservation related. So it runs the gamut from things like us paying for new drives on motors at places like drinking water plants or wastewater treatment plants, heating and air conditioning systems in police stations, town halls, steam traps in schools. You know, it really runs the gamut. Now, the way we can help you decide and come to an understanding of what projects you might do with our grant money is through NSTAR. In their efficiency program, we can help you get audits done by NSTAR at no cost to the town. In fact, we coordinated one just a couple of weeks ago with the wastewater treatment plant, and I think did the report just come out?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so I got a quick look at it today. There are a couple of, so that audit was done by one of NSTAR's energy efficiency contractors. It was done at no cost to the town. It identified at least 3 measures that NSTAR will incentivize. The number I saw was between maybe $35,000 and $45,000, with the town's contribution being about $55,000 to $60,000. Now, if you're a green community, that part that, you know, in that audit would be responsible for the town, you could propose to use our grant money instead of your own money to do those measures. Towards the end, this is just some stuff in here about Mass Energy Insight. Again, really recommend that the town get on that system. It really helps you track what you're doing. And then contact information. I'm available. I'm right up in the Lakeville DEP office. I grew up in Middleborough. I went to Mass Maritime. I know the area. Want to help my towns if they want to be helped. You know, and the thing I like best about my program is it's voluntary. I'm not here with a mandate. I'm not here to, you know, try to tell you what's best for Wareham. If Wareham takes a look at what the program is and they think it's a good idea and they want to take advantage of the grants, we're here for you. That being said, we have other resources that if you don't choose to seek the designation, we can help you with other stuff, the Mass Energy Insight stuff, the energy audits. It's a number of different things that we can help you with, even if you don't want to pursue the designation.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Nice to see you again, Seth. It seems to me that it would behoove us to ask for an energy audit.
I think we have.
We have.
We've done it. I know I asked one like 3 or 4 years ago.
Can we get another one?
Yeah,
So,
but I think we
sure.
have a resource.
So I
Well,
got,
no, because things
well,
change.
yeah. 3 or 4 years ago, you definitely need new ones. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, but let me just explain how the wastewater treatment one came about, because I work in the DEP office.
Right.
And the DEP guys were talking about potential opportunities. I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk with Derek, you know, with your charge. We can get NSTAR, I can talk to them and see if you have 3 or 4 buildings or operations that you want audited, we can get going on that.
I can tell you one thing that'll horrify you is the town hall. Every year, twice a year, we go in there, install the window units for air conditioning. Takes a week of our guys' labor to do that. Then in the fall, a week to take them all out. It's beautiful. Great waste of energy.
So that, my recommendation, do we need a motion to ask?
No, it's up to Mr. Sullivan to request it. We have an energy committee that we formed that we really haven't moved off square one yet, but it is there. And the green
Another one
initiative
of
stuff
those.
we've talked about before, but it was up to the town administrator prior.
Well, may I just say that I'm very excited about getting audited by NSTAR. I had them do my house, and it was sort of weird, some of the things they came up with. But I'm looking at, no, really,
So you participated in the Mass Save program?
yeah.
Yeah. This is essentially the same
same
thing,
thing.
except on the municipal level.
Yeah, so, you know, it was fun and whatever. And I get my little thing in the mail every 3 months saying, compared
Well,
to
how are
your
you doing
neighbors,"
compared to
yeah,
your
and
neighbors?
You get a smile, or you get a, Okay.
Yeah, the town won't get that.
Okay. But you have given away some mammoth money in terms of replacing boilers for schools. And I guess, when does your money run out?
Our money comes from, and it's in the legislation. Our program has to be funded up to $10 million. Can be funded up to $10 million every year from money that can come from a number of sources. It's mostly come from Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative auction proceeds. Some has also come from alternative compliance payments from the Renewable Portfolio Standard. The good part about it is that it's outside the budget. It's not subject to
Nobody can
appropriation.
mess with it, is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
They can't mess with it?
It's not subject to appropriation, and so our funding is not going to get cut in some late-night budget deal. The Green Communities Act of 2008 was passed unanimously in both houses of the legislature, so.
And something like replacing all of our light bulbs with LED bulbs, that,
So, yeah, I mean, not to get too far in the weeds,
yeah, no, I'm
but
just,
say-
some
say
examples that
the-
somebody
yeah,
sitting at home
right,
can understand.
the energy auditing people will come, we'll try to get as many buildings done as possible. I think to start, we'd probably be looking at like 3 or 4. So if you chose the town hall, if you chose one of the schools, if you chose the fire, the police station, or this building, whatever, they will come and they will do an energy assessment. And if your lighting is old, they're going to recommend, and a lot of that stuff will be essentially at no cost to the town. The rebates and incentives on lighting are really, really high.
So, say they tell us to change all of our light bulbs.
Yep.
We have what do we have
We've
on
got a
the warrant?
warrant article to do it.
Yeah, I know,
and,
but-
so we're getting, I think the total reimbursement, they were, well, they'd called it 70, but it's actually 52%. It was 40, and then another 30, I think, on top of that.
That's
so-
LED lighting.
So is that something we should talk about offline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys right now are appropriating money to make up a difference between what you thought you were going to get and what you got?
No,
that what I'm
when
hearing?
we, just the difference from what we're going to, we can fund it with 0% loans, or we can
Okay,
actually.
yep. So you're going to take advantage of the 0% financing on bill,
On
right?
on some of them, and
Yep.
we can appropriate 103,000 from our free cash to be able to
Okay.
lump sum it, so.
So I guess, the best thing for me to say is if you're a designated green community, you wouldn't have to spend your own money, that 103,000. You could, in your grant application, you could say, we've already had these studies done. This is how much the work would cost. This is how much energy we'd save. This is what the payback will be. And we would review it, and if we approve it, you get to use the grant money instead of the town's money. And one thing I didn't mention is that this isn't a one-time deal. If you work the system the right way, you are eligible for competitive grants as a green community every year. Now, you may not be ready to apply for competitive grants every year, but so far they've been available, and those are, right now, they've been $250,000 is the maximum amount.
So how long does it take us to go through this?
The bylaw changes and stuff.
You're going to have to
Well,
do
the
zoning bylaws.
Zoning bylaw.
So you got to develop the bylaw. You got
Yeah.
to go through that process.
But
you got
you
to get
said
it on
those
the.
are, you have some model ones online.
We do.
Mhm.
Yep. And you got to get it on warrant.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get your 2/3 majority on
Yeah.
zoning.
Okay, establish an energy use baseline. You're going to do that for us?
No, I'm not going to
No,
do
not
that.
you, but the,
Yeah,
Well,
software.
somebody
Somebody is going to
somebody
get
in
it done.
town is going to have to work with that system to create that.
fine, you'd make a good lawyer. So,
Well, I won't bore the board. I wanted to be a lawyer, but then I started having kids, so it didn't work out.
okay. And so approximately what time frame are we looking at?
Well,
get this done?
the designation applications are usually due at the end of October. So this year would probably be tight.
It takes about a year, Mrs. White
About a
said.
year. Okay, that was what I was looking for. Thank you.
But, I don't want to put the squash on it. I don't know if you guys, do you do Do you do a special in the fall?
We do
Yes.
it late
Yes.
October.
In October,
It's tight.
third
Possible.
Monday.
It's not impossible.
No, it's tight, that's all.
The biggest amount of work is,
Stretch goal.
in terms of, putting the pencil to the paper is criteria 3. You got to get the vote out on the other stuff, but in terms of establishing the baseline and doing the 20% reduction plan, that's the most, that's the most grunt work.
Thank you.
Would we get credit for any work we've already done?
It depends on what your baseline year is, and if it's not too far back, we do allow some retrospective look-sees. Yep.
Wow.
Tropiano, any questions?
No, I know that these programs are coming fast and furious in general. I mean, I've worked on a lot of solar sites in the last 2 years now, and they figure what's it, one megawatt for every 1,000 homes, I think is what they figure runs 1,000 homes. So you put up 3, 4, 5. I did one that was 8.5, so that's a pretty good size.
Yep.
And they, it doesn't take long. It's amazing how
Yep.
this doesn't take too long. And
But
Before you know
our primary focus in my division is to help you reduce the amount. The renewables are great,
Right.
and if you can get a good, if you can get a good kilowatt hour number out of a developer, that's great for for 20 years, fixed. That gives you guys surety that that's a good deal. But we want to help you use less electricity, so that you're buying even less electricity at that great rate. And I think you'd be surprised if we get some studies done with your, especially so in a town like this that has their own school system, you're not regionalized. 75, maybe as much as 80% of your energy consumption is going to be in your schools
Yeah, we know that.
as a municipality, especially owning your school buses. So, there might be some real good stuff there. And again, if the town doesn't choose to pursue the designation, we're still available to help you get the audits done. The thing about the audits, to be frank, is that NSTAR will come and do them, but they are under the auspices of the DPU. They're supposed to be getting a certain amount of energy efficiency work done. So they can't come and do a lot of studies that are never going to get acted on. So.
yeah, and that makes perfect sense. I know that the whole point is they either have to get reductions in the use of energy, or they have to build new plants and so on and so forth, which I guess costs a lot more than to get the reductions. I guess that's the whole theory behind it. right?
Well, as part of the Green Communities Act, the utilities have to submit 3-year energy efficiency plans to the DPU for their review and approval.
Mhm.
If they don't meet their goals, so they get money, right, from the energy efficiency charges that are in the rate base, right? They got to give that money back to the ratepayers,
Yeah.
or else.
So they're really hot on this.
So they are motivated to do this stuff.
One of the things we have in our favor is our building commissioner, Mr. Arfredi, was in Lakeville when they became a green community,
Yeah,
correct?
That is correct.
he was involved with that.
That is correct.
I would
And
ask-
he was a big help
Yes.
in Lakeville.
Great.
I think at this point, I'll ask the board if they're in favor of continuing to pursue this.
Absolutely.
Tropiano?
Yep.
That's 3-0. So you have the board's approval. It's up to probably work with the town administrator, and whatever we have to do, we'll do on our part as well.
Terrific. And you have my contact information. Alan
Yes,
will
I do.
vouch for me. I return my phone calls. I'm here to help you guys out. Okay? You have a familiar face over here, too?
Yeah.
Situate, right?
It's not bad.
Situate's a green community.
It's 4 years. Promise we'll do something.
Okay? Thanks very much. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
opportunity to come and talk to you.
It's taken.
My
Yeah,
new
to
best
get
friend.
this.
Thanks.
All right,
Seth.
thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much, Seth.
You bet.
Appreciate you waiting on us.
Library next.
Yes, definitely. Sorry.
All right, can the library people come on down?
I guess I have one last question. You going to have any more Middleborough kids playing for the Gatemen this year?
Maybe not, I don't know.
I don't know.
I hope so.
This is Whiteside, she's the
But
treasurer.
Two years ago, Tyler Horn is my son's best friend.
Ah, yeah.
He's playing A-ball with the Giants right now.
We actually have kids, local kids who are non-roster at the moment.
Oh, good.
Because we have to.
Yep, until
Until,
playoffs are done.
you know, playoffs are all.
Yep.
College World Series.
George Springer just got signed.
Nice. All right, well, we'll be down. You guys, this is a great setup down here. It's awesome. It's fun.
Thank-
Nice.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Say hello to Meg for me. Evening, Mrs. Maderos.
Good evening.
I had asked for this, the reason being is that we seem to, in the community, get partial information, not full information, and people go off in all different directions, not understanding what's going on. So my request here was simply to explain to people, with the override, if it does pass, and, you know, with the extra 100,000 we added, as well as what the library was going to actually be able to provide from where we were this past year. So
Thanks,
It's all
Mr.
yours.
Slavin. We do have a handout for town meeting, so I was just going to go over that. I did provide the select board with a line item budget for the 400,000 or so, so I hope everybody has that. And if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. I was just waiting for approval from Claire Smith for the handout before, you know, I made that public. But basically, between the revolving funds and Article 6, which is the balanced budget, and then the Proposition 2.5 supplement budget, which comes to 432,835 altogether, would restore services at the main library to 5 days a week. So that would include evening and Saturday hours. Basically goes back to our schedule of, not last year, but the previous year, where we were open on Tuesday and Thursdays till 8 o'clock and have the Saturday hours, and reopen the Wednesday and Friday.
So Monday would be,
Monday, the main library would still be closed, as it has been for many years.
okay, and then Tuesday,
Tuesday and Thursday would be 9:30 to 8. Wednesday and Friday would be 9:30 to 5, and Saturday 10 to 2.
Wednesday and Friday, again, one more time, sorry.
Wednesday and Friday, 9:30 to 5.
Thank you.
And then the Spinney branch would still be open 3 days a week, and that'd be continued to be funded through the Friends and private donations, grants, and possibly some state aid. So the Spinney hours would be the opposite days. They would open on the Monday from 9:30 to 5, and probably be open the Wednesday evening and the Friday. So it basically all reverts back to FY13.
And there, and I'm sorry to be interrupting, Mr. Slavin.
It's
okay, go ahead.
fine.
The Spinney is going to be privately funded, not out
It's-
of this?
There's still funding through the Friends accounts to provide funding for Spinney for at least another year, if not even a little bit more than that at this point. It's been very economical, energy-wise especially, so.
Thank you.
And the budget will also continue to provide us with the ability to apply for a waiver for state certification. And the biggest piece for that for our library users is that they'll be able to borrow books from neighboring, libraries and communities, which is very important to our users. It also makes us eligible for grants and gets us some state aid money, which we use to pay our library substitutes. So the new budget includes putting back the 2 part-time positions that were cut. That's what lets us open those evening hours again and the days that were closed. It also provides 33% of the required book budget, and the rest of the book budget will be funded as it always has been through grants and donations and fundraising. So that's been our normal practice and procedure. So basically, the budget isn't bringing us back to glory days, but it's making us sustainable at least, which is our goal.
May I
Whiteside,
just,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. This is a silly question, I'm sure, but who chooses the books you buy? Or whether they're on tape books or whether they're the kind that I read. You know, the hold them, yeah,
The holdable books.
the holdable books, yeah.
The book budget gets determined through a selection process, so the librarians on staff read review journals, and they choose from there. And we do take, requests and that type of thing, and we base it on what gets used, too.
Okay. And then, well, I just finished all your Earl Stanley Gardner, so obviously somebody donated, that collection of books, and how do you weed them out? If I'm the only person who's read them in the past 25 years.
Well, we do get statistics, so we can run reports that will say has something, circulated in the last 5 or 10 years. And
Okay. And then, how do you fix books? Like, when the spines are broken, or there's stains, or they're ripped pages? Where does that come in under your budget?
Well, we do mending, but it's really supplies, and all our supplies are paid for out of our revolving fund. We don't
Okay.
have a supply budget, so.
Thank
Mr. Tropiano?
You have rental leasing, $4,700. What do you rent or lease?
The photocopier.
It's $4,700 for a photocopy.
Well, we actually-
People can buy copies, is that what it is?
We were doing a new contract. We used to have 2 copiers, 2 plain old black and white. We were looking to consolidate into one that would do color, so we can charge more per page. Plus, it's not only just a copier, it would replace our laser printer, so that everybody who printed, even if you were printing off of a computer in-house, you would print to that printer, which would save us a lot of money, because the ink is very expensive on the laser printer, so.
Okay, so it costs, let's say it's $4,700 for this printer lease, okay? And then you sell copies and stuff
Right,
from it.
right.
So you actually have an income, and that income goes into your revolving fund,
Right,
up to a certain amount of dollars, whatever it is, right?
right.
How much is the revolving fund?
30,000.
30,000, okay, thank you.
No.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I'm sorry, yeah.
you want something?
I sweated for 2 hours in the history room looking for some information. It was so hot in that room, I thought I was going to die. I was not the only person in the room. Clearly, I'm not, a librarian, but clearly if we have documents in there that are important, I'm guessing that they fry and they freeze, which is really not good. So what have you put in here for hopefully fixing that?
Well, unfortunately, that room tends to be the one that has the least control in it, and has been since the building was built, which is really quite ironic. There isn't any maintenance in the library budget. That's all through municipal maintenance, so that's something you'd have to.
Yeah.
I thought they had done something in that room that didn't solve it whatsoever, and it needs a whole true system for that, what you're speaking about, the
Does not-
capital expense.
It does not have a proper HVAC system.
Well, I think we're talking about 2 different areas, though. You weren't in the historical commission area. You
Yes.
were in the stone room.
Stone
I was in the stone room, yeah.
Right. The Historic Commission has a little storage room
Yeah,
that
with a
isn't
dehumidifier.
open to the public at all. It's just to store their materials, so that you're talking about 2 different
Okay,
things.
it was the stone room, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming, and hopefully the
You're
public
welcome.
will understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Library. Okay, want to go back up? We'll go to
Let's go back.
discussion and possible vote of exclusive financial articles for lottery system per town bylaw.
When we did some of the charter changes back in 2010, it allowed on the lottery system, at the vote of the Board of Selectmen asking for an exception, if it wanted to pull financial or emergency items out of the normal queue. The reason I brought this up was we have an override article and a base budget article, and my thought was that we probably should make sure they get bundled together, because one is dependent on the other one as far as going through. My real concern is that we have 150 quorum required, and a lot of times, if the override article came before the base budget, there was always a possibility people could get up and leave and end up with no quorum. I was also concerned about the other financial articles that we had as well. There was a discussion with the moderator and town council, and I think town council had come up with a possible idea as well, but I think at least for 6 and 7, if the board is so willing, we could actually vote to recommend to the moderator that 6 and 7 be bundled together, if either one gets pulled.
No problem.
I don't have any problem with that. I do have a problem with making all of the financial statement, all of the financial budget items first, because then everybody's going to leave. So-
Don't disagree. This is a problem that we
Yep.
have with the system.
Yep, so
Lottery and
I like the lottery, but 6 needs to go first, and 7 needs to follow it.
Okay. I'd ask for a vote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? We'll need to generate a letter out to the moderator for that.
You abstain?
No.
0.
Who's going to be brave enough to?
I've already broached the subject with the moderator. We'll write it up and I'll sign my name to it.
Discussion and possible vote on policies 0702, 0703, 0704, and so on.
Gee, I wonder who that belongs to.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder.
Policy
Mr.
702, I move that we move it to the sewer policy handbook and remove it from the selectmen's.
Second. All those in favor? Need a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 300.
Move that policy 73 simply be reaffirmed.
Okay.
Move.
Don't have to vote on that.
You
We're not
don't?
making any
Okay.
changes.
Policy 74 is just to be followed as it is. Policy 82 should be removed because it's covered in Section 6 of our Home Rule Charter. So I'd move that. Removal of policy 82.
Okay. All those in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? Abstain? 300.
And policy 83, I move that we merge it with policy 74 and remove both of them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Or
Aye.
remove it, excuse me.
Yes. All those in favor again?
Aye.
And
Opposed? Abstain? 300.
And then the 8810, we need more time.
We need to have all 5 selectmen here
Yep.
for that. That's virtually a master plan for the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
And the only other one that we had outstanding, I think it's on there, is
Is the policy for, what is it, the beach thing that we did? I think that
0208.
came back. Sewer.
It's not listed here. It was originally going to be listed under the Oyster Festival. So I'll put it on.
It was here.
It-
Well, I've got it anyway.
You've got it there, but it's not,
It's not in the packet.
it got missed on the
Oh, did it
agenda.
really?
Yep.
I have it here. I know
It
that.
was with the license and permit. They were together. That one there, we need to sit down and work on that ASAP because we have a bunch of events coming up, et cetera.
Okay, so maybe, could you put it on the agenda for next week?
Yep.
We
I
only
know.
have that before town meeting, an hour and an hour. We could put it on for
We
the
put it
6th of
on-
May.
No, if we put it on the agenda, then we discuss it and we have a
Okay.
vote later.
All right,
I
we'll
mean,
put
it-
that on for the 28th,
Yes, please.
okay? 0208. All righty, that takes care of that.
Continuing discussion, merging of certain town committees. I,
We had put this off for quite a
Yeah.
while. We all have in our packet the list of the committees again. We had talked about natural resources. It's something that we'll need to get into sometime after in May when we get past town meeting.
yeah, it's a little hectic between.
But I just wanted to bring this up because it's been sitting for probably 2 months plus now, not going anywhere.
Okay, I will make a commitment that I will work very closely with you and whoever else needs to after town meeting.
Okay, if you want to make a note in the folder, Patrick, we're going to go back to this in about a month.
Okay.
And I will be working with town council.
Next up is the possible reassignment of the Public Safety Action Committee and also the District Town Initiatives. We had originally assigned Mr. Sullivan to head up these two committees, but with the amount of work assigned and everything else, I think maybe we should, if Mr. Sullivan is willing to designate one of the board to try and get this started moving.
I think that's fair.
What would you like to designate?
I would like to see which board member would think they'd have the time for it.
If
That's gonna be most
if
important.
the board is willing, basically the District Town Initiative, I've already done the first 3 meetings with them. The PSAC, I started almost 4 years ago through capital planning, so I
You
don't have
just
a problem doing
volunteered
both of them.
yourself.
Okay. I will take care of both of those and hopefully get back to the board in about 3 weeks.
Thank you, Chairman Slavin, for taking over the PSAC on that.
Just change my name to designate. Next up, we have the third quarter revenue and expense reports that Mr. Sullivan gave us. Obviously, nobody's had a chance to look and review them, but this is something that we had discussed for a year, 2 years ago, about getting at the middle of the following month a statement of expenses to see how we're tracking, and that the following month of every quarter to get a revenue report to see how our revenues are. So we can come back to this as far as information for questions, either next week or the following week in May. What's the board's preference?
I'd like to put it on the agenda for the following week, not the 28th, the whatever.
May
the-
6th.
Yep. And I would also ask that the clerical staff either, make extra copies. I know we're killing trees, but sometimes when we put something off for a couple of weeks, we don't have it.
Yeah, we file it away.
Yeah, there's some of these you'll see in here with the recommendation, they should be taken care of at town meeting with some of the interdepartmental transfers.
Okay.
So,
If that's the case, maybe you give us an update sheet after town meeting as well.
Oh.
That would be helpful. Next up is something that comes up that I don't think the board's ever really dealt with before. It says general site plan. It should be Dollar General. I guess Shirley will have to yell at me. I didn't catch it. Dollar General is has sent a request out to the planning board for a site plan review. Patrick has it there. What normally happens is the Board of Selectmen are also supposed to issue just an opinion to the planning board before they start the site plan review. The location, I believe, is going to be where the old White Pines Motel was. I've looked at it, and my only comment would be at this point to make sure that the shrubbery and the layout as far as the look of the area is clean, it has proper shrubbery, if there's not going to be any grass, whatever else besides parking area.
In actuality, there's not much we could say about that.
It's a planning board
actually a
item.
bylaw, and they will make sure that happens, so that's really not something that's in our purview, but
We're allowed to make a recommendation to them.
egresses, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's gonna happen anyway. But as far as like egress and things like that, I think would be something we'd be concerned about. They have an issue over there where a lot of the land is behind the railroad tracks. That's might be an issue for them. I don't know if they.
No, the layout is fine the way they've got
It
it.
looks like they come across the front of it, but
Yeah.
we'll see how it all works out. But I looked at the ones that you sent us,
Yeah.
and I didn't see anything.
No, there wasn't.
that Jumped out at me and said, this is bad.
It's only a 9,100 square foot building, so it's
pretty simple.
easily accessible in that area, and the parking is fine. And the access in and out, as far as traffic safety issues, is well thought out as well.
Well, shouldn't they also have a copy of, they should be made aware of that 9 million page state study of that area? The thing that you talked about last week that's being pushed off for a couple of years, but
This,
Beyond it.
this is beyond it?
well, this is beyond what they're doing this time, but there'll be
Okay.
another phase later, probably, 2020 by this time, where they'll do the next phase. But what it is, this shows actually where the state land stops. So when they go in to put it in, they will not put signage or a parking area
Okay,
encroaching on state land.
okay,
Of
great.
course, the only problem with that is if the state needs to take a piece of that, but to be honest with you, just by the width of the road there, I don't think they
so.
have that issue.
Okay.
I mean, they could obviously want to take a piece, but I don't think so.
So basically recommend to the office sending a note off to the planning board that we have no issues at this time.
Okay, great.
Next up, normally, a lot of times, the Board of Selectmen does visioning, or they do like a workshop in advanced planning. What I did about a week and a half ago was to list a bunch of things that we have. I think the town administrator saw the list and basically said he'd have to work 400 hours a week to catch up with what the list was. I just want to read this off to the public so people know what we're doing on short-term, mid-term, and long-term planning. We do have a plan. And I'm just going to read these down. There is no set order, but just I have extra copies of the newspaper if they want it also. One is the focus group that we did at Bridgewater State University. We'll be getting to that on the 6th of May with possible actions. Number 2 is an EdStat program, which is an economic analysis provided by Bridgewater State and Northeastern University. All the paperwork is in. This is a $10,000 study program by Barry Bluestone at Northeastern University at the Dukakis Center, and they will basically analyze the town economically, seeing what we do, what we don't do, where we need to go growth-wise, et cetera. There'll be a very strong program for us to figure out how we go over the next 4 or 5 years. Mr. Sullivan would be controlling that. As I said, all the paperwork went in about a week ago, so it's just a matter of finalizing, getting the students in here.
Thank you.
Next is Merchants Way. We have CETA programs, Cape Flyer, train station. Mass DOT is also willing to sign over the train station to us if we so request. Number 4, stormwater management. These are federal and state requirements. We had Mr. Mulkern here a couple weeks ago talking about water runoff down, I think is Wychunas Road, and that's a stormwater issue, but we have that all over town. We are going to have to deal with stormwater management because the federal government's requiring it, and there's very few grants, and this is going to be a real problem for the town cost-wise.
Are we working with the Buzzards Bay Action Committee or Buzzards Coalition for Buzzards Bay?
This is something that basically that doesn't require that because the federal government has set the standards.
I understand, but they sometimes have, well,
I haven't seen anything from there.
Okay.
I go to their meetings.
thank you.
Next is the Clear Channel billboard. That's still hanging. We had that agreed to about 3 months, 4 months ago. I believe they're coming back with a proposal again. They have to make some changes. Legal items, land and buildings, the Parker Mill Dam. We still haven't got a definitive answer on that yet. Everett School is going to be coming back to us. We need to make sure that that school, what we can do with that property, if there's any codicils or any covenants, etc. Toby Road, we think we've finally taken care of that by accepting the easement from the Beaton Company. And then we have Cedar Land at Bay Point. And then we also have WCTV looking to basically take the old Boys and Girls Club as a possibility for the new studio. Also at WCTV, the new studio again, and also the request under our contract for upgrades available to the town, which could be adding another room somewhere or an area to make it compatible to broadcast and TV as well.
Do they have a deadline on when they have to spend the funds? Do you know?
It's by the contract, it's up to us to request it. If we don't request it, we don't get it. So we have not requested in quite a while.
How do we request?
The board basically makes a decision what they'd like to do with the town administrator's input, and then we make a written request to WCTV.
Can we please put that on the agenda for May 6th?
Okay.
Thank you.
All these items will have to be scheduled.
I understand that, but that one's a biggie. Not the rest of them aren't.
You're not going to be able to read all this stuff.
Yeah, we can.
You got 5 pages of stuff here.
No, it isn't. It's all the same. It's extra copies for
There's
newspapers.
29 on this one, 25 on that one, and 20 on that one.
That's the old ones. The current one is 29.
Oh, you were updating it as you go along, is that, and left it in the folder?
Yes, I asked for updates from everybody, remember? Okay, status updates on the PSAC. We just talked about the town district shared initiatives, the building permit handbook that we're working on, and also the employee handbook. We also have a thing called the Spirit of Wareham, which is a continued recognition of deserving recipients. We've done a couple. We also talked about doing a Town Employee of the Month, the All Year Awards. Mr. Sullivan Number 11 is the piece that we have a workshop coming, EDU rates, public meetings, decision on determination of rate structure. Number 12, we just discussed condensing town committees. 13, review of all town operations to facilitate long-term budgeting goals and improve streamlined services, inclusion of school committee and finance committee. This is going to be done in coordination with what we do with our base budget and whatever else comes down the line. We have to go ahead and do these things because even after 5 years, we're going to be running into a situation where our expenses versus our revenues still won't exactly balance out. So we have to find ways to do more with less and also find ways to possibly regionalize whatever else is available to us. Master plan update, both town and selectmen's existing plans. Solar and wind energy bylaws, we don't have anything on the books, so anybody coming into the town looking for solar or wind energy has to go before the ZBA, which is a very difficult process to do. We should have a set bylaw for each one of them. We had a wind bylaw at one time, which got pulled out and never got rewritten. Townwide green initiatives, Gold Green Community. Seth Pickering just did a presentation today, so we'll be working on that. Parking issues and programs. Gary's already started that with the onset piece to start. Outreach to surrounding communities to share, regionalize certain operations. Implement plans using results from number 1 and number 2 to increase revenue needs. That is the focus group in the EdStat programs. Strive for consistencies in laws, policies, and actions. This is mostly because as we go in and look at something, we have an issue, we find there's more problems sitting behind those issues. So we need to kind of slowly but surely clean up all the stuff we have. On the COA, we've got move COA with a question mark, Hammond Library. That's still outstanding for us. Bylaw to limit time in motels, Seaborn bylaw. Trash litter, adopt a no litter town campaign. Community partners, private and public business council. This basically would be businesses in the town on a council with basically some members of town government to sit and just have monthly meetings and talk about issues. Policies 8810 and 0208, those are long-term policies. Develop community outreach for projects, see Lopes Field Initiative that Mrs. Whiteside started, and I think there's several others available. Update listing for private and public ways. We're going to have to do that since we've adopted 40, Section 6. And then the Oyster Festival 2015 and on, we have to have an initiative with the Wareham Village Association, but also Mass Fisheries to help sponsor this particular program in 2015 on. We were very late getting to them this year, so they're interested in working with us on the Oyster Festivals going forward. And that's it.
Did you read number 25? Did you read 25?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Task Force for Volunteers, link to town website. And that's all we got.
Oh, I think we're developing the private snow and ice removal policy.
Yeah.
That's one we need to put on there
That's
as
all
well.
part of the
Yeah.
private and public ways. So that's all we have to do for the next year. We'll bring this up as we go along during the month of May and schedule in where we're going to fit them in over the next 10 months or so.
That's interesting.
We've all had the Powers and Sullivan report. Does anybody have any comments yet, or is it too soon?
Too soon.
Okay, we'll put that on again. Union contract ratification, Patrick?
Contracts for wastewater treatment. Where are we at here? Financial, where am I at? Review, I got wastewater treatment memo of agreement.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. This is the, you remember, this is the contract that we agreed to, and basically, we're being asked to ratify it. So what we'll need is, we'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the town of Wareham, the Massachusetts Labor District Council wastewater treatment plant operators. I have it in my hand and authorize the chairman to sign it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300.
Okay.
Any business not anticipating 40 hours?
Oh, yeah, I see, you did it, you've changed this around a little bit, okay, no big deal. You messed me up, you changed some things
Yes, I did.
on my little thing here.
Mrs. Whiteside, Mrs. Whiteside, do you have anything on Lopes Field that was emergency to 48 hours? You had sent an email that something had to be signed or agreed to?
I'm sorry?
You had something on Lopes Field, you sent a note off about something needed to be agreed to?
No.
I haven't gotten the documentation yet,
Okay.
so no.
Okay, I have nothing. Do you have anything?
No,
Okay.
just that piece.
All right, so that's Town Administrator's report. Mr. Sullivan, you're on.
Thank you very much. The first item I'd like to speak about is we have opened the bids for the RFP for the VACCON truck for the wastewater pollution control facility. As you know, we had anticipated a cost of $90,000. Well, the winning bid with a 1-year warranty, the asking price was $70,000. We have a $19,000 trade-in allowance, so a total cost of $51,000. So that's
Gotta like that.
it's a newer truck, 64,000 miles on it, and that will actually save us money by not having to go out to vendors for that. So we were very excited about that one. We also, last week, I met with the Insurance Advisory Committee from the unions, some of the employees. We'll go into more formal discussions, but as a result of it and the information, I've sent a letter out to the Mayflower Health Group for our health and telling them that the town of Wareham is interested. This is a step to get us out of being self-funded and potentially saving the town and taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So we're excited about that one. The date we could potentially go into there if everything worked out would be in September. So as we continue on with them, I'll advise the board and give as much information as possible. But this is what we've been looking for a few years.
Thank you. It'll be a substantial savings to the town. Also, will give us stability in order to budget properly over the coming years, too. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Yes, there's I just want to speak about it again. We're getting a lot of calls for work to be done on private roads, and I'm going to ask again that the residents, if you'd like to look it up, it's please on our bylaws, Division 2, Article 1, labeled Street Rules. It's Section 18 on our town website. We have the bylaws. That you actually have to petition the Board of Selectmen to do that. So please, I've read it out before. We'll try and put something on the front of the website for the private road owners to be able to view that. So there is a process and a bylaw, and that's what we need to follow at this time. So last one is, I've been speaking to Chief Walsh, and there's been a lot of good work coming out of the police department. I just wanted to speak about a couple incidents and commend some of the officers and some of the hard work. Obviously, all the men and women work hard, but these are some of the outstanding ones. On April 12th, and this is probably one that none of us actually knew about, Officer Stephen Kearney, who was off duty, noticed a crane in a precarious position while traveling on the scenic highway in Bourne. Sensing something was wrong, Officer Kearney responded to the immediate area of the crane as the truck lifted in the air and the crane toppled to the ground. Officer Kearney was immediately notified emergency response personnel. They tended to the two victims as best as possible, although both men succumbed to their injuries. Officer Kearney's immediate actions, albeit off-duty, should be commended. We appreciate that work. On April 12th at approximately 5:30 a.m. on this Saturday morning, 70-year-old Robert McKenzie was struck by a motor vehicle and sustained serious injuries while delivering newspapers. The suspect vehicle fled the area, leaving Mr. McKenzie alone for approximately 20 minutes before he was noticed by a passing motorist. a subsequent investigation by the initial responding patrol officers, followed by extensive and extraordinary investigation by Detective Division led by Detective Sergeant Mike Smith and conducted by Detective Bill DeSilva and investigator Brian Baralt, led to the identification of the suspect vehicle and its operator, who admitted to sufficient facts concerning the incident. The investigative efforts of the Detective Division should certainly be commended. We know that they're short-staffed now, and following up on a hit and run is probably one of the hardest things. And hearing from the inside what they did, I appreciate, and that was extraordinary work. They did a great job. And the last one we had was April 20th. During his duties in the station, Officer Eric Machado noticed an arrested female in a holding cell was in some type of distress. Checking further, Officer Machado noticed that the female had attempted suicide by hanging and immediately stopped her intentions, possibly saving her from serious self-inflicted injury. Officer Machado's immediate and professional actions should certainly be commended. So those are just a few of the things that they see on day to day, and I appreciate what they do.
Thank you.
Okay, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Liaison reports.
This is
Whiteside.
Okay, this is a little different maybe than a liaison report, but I really think that maybe it's time for us to sponsor a volunteer fair. Now, what I mean by that, ooh, what an awful look. And I gave you peeps, too. You know, in the high school, what they do is they have a day and they have different tables where different, you know, businesses, employers come in and they, you know, they sell their wares. I think if we had a volunteer informational table, you know, in the meeting room, not the cafeteria, the one above, you know, the regular, what's the name of the thing? Give me a break. Over that building.
You're talking about the
Thank
auditorium?
you, the auditorium. And set up, you know, stop it. Informational stations of things that we need help doing, where citizens could come and find out what it would take to, you know, figure out what roads are private or not, or, you know, what does being on the Marine Resources Committee mean, or anything like that. Okay, it was a bad idea. I'll be
No, nobody said it was a bad idea.
It's fine.
Well, you're taking this hard. You know, I think it's a good idea. I'm just not sure how we would push people to go there, but
give him candy.
It didn't work last time.
Candy didn't work last time. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see us get information to people somehow so they'd want to sign up and help. I mean, we got lots of boards that we could use help on. I mean, there's no question about
But
it.
not even just boards. I mean, to have somebody say, okay, I'll give you 40 hours over a month, and I'll help you with your street, you know, research the streets, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of goes along with the volunteer listing on the website.
Yeah, I mean,
We need help.
Okay. We definitely do. There's no question about it.
That's it.
Well, we did end the health fair, so I know that
Okay, I
people
have
are very
nothing. How
sad
about
about
you,
that.
sir?
Maybe we can bring something back.
Judy's, it's really tight time-wise, but maybe we do something, if Claire would give us some space for town meeting, if it's most likely gonna be 2 nights, you know, and have a table out front and have some of the chairs, if they're willing to sit and talk about their committees when people come in.
Well, we could
You
have
might as many-
information, yeah.
You might have 400 to 500 people for this town meeting.
We could do that. I mean, we could, maybe, you know, somebody from our office could make up what the Marine Resources Committee does, what the so-and-so, and just have some informational stuff there.
You know, just if they can contact just the
Yeah.
chairs to see if they'd
Yeah.
come and do that.
Yeah, we don't need any permission for that. It's
No,
the
we don't.
school.
Just-
We can just set it
No, I'm
up.
just saying that, yeah,
We can just do it.
let's do it.
Okay, let's try it.
All right,
Try
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Um,
How about yourself?
Not too much this week. I just came, earlier today, I was at Serpent up in Taunton, Ross Perry, who does the regionalization and stuff that I've been working on for quite a bit. And the discussion today was about energy and aggregation and also PPA programs, which fits in with what was discussed today with Seth Pickering. And as Derek said, about third-party purchasing, which is an aggregation purchase, falls right into that particular process. So I brought back information, plus I emailed Derek back what was discussed as well, so that should also help in that particular area. And I think that's all. Oh, and one other thing, I forgot on the announcements. So on the 26th, which is Saturday, starting at 5 o'clock, going till about 10 o'clock, the Celebration 2014 group is having a Wareham cultural extravaganza. We mentioned it last week, mentioned it again. It will be at the high school auditorium. Dana Malafar from the president of Bridgewater State University will be a featured speaker, but there'll be approximately 6 different entertainment groups that'll be performing as well. I believe the tickets are $15 for an adult and $10 for seniors.
Okay.
Tickets will be available to door if you don't have them ahead of time. Should be a very nice event. There'll be Irish dances, Portuguese dances, and at least 3 different musical groups, plus I believe Buddy Montero is going to be the MC and also his band. That's it for me.
Okay, the consent agenda, I have no bills. I do have one set of minutes from April 9th. It's an executive session. I move that we approve the minutes of the executive session of the Board of Selectmen for April 9th, 2014,
It's
and
April
hold.
8th. It's April 8th.
April 9th. No, meeting date, I'm sorry, April 8th. I apologize.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 300.
All right, and my last thing is an appointment to the Marine Resources.
Didn't you
No,
have a regular meeting?
no,
Yeah,
it's in there, but it's not on the thing.
yeah, it is. Executive minutes and regular minutes.
There's only one set of minutes in here, and it's executive session minutes. Unless there's a one-pager here, no. That's it, that's all there is. The minutes are not in there. Can't approve something, it's not there. Unless it's in
Well,
this
it's-
folder
it's
by
in the
mistake. No,
packet.
it's not in this one.
We have them in our packet.
It's in our packet, but it's not in our, it's not on our thing here.
Well, can't we approve them? And you just sign them? Okay, I move to approve the minutes of the meeting of April 8th, 2014, the regular minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 300.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right, and the last is the Marine Resources. William J. Smith, 6 Prospect Ave, Onset, Massachusetts, is asking to be appointed to Marine Resources to a term to expire June 30th, 2017. Any questions from anyone?
No,
Is he here?
he's not.
He's not here.
Mr. Smith actually, I think, met at least 1, possibly 2 of the members, but they don't have a quorum. I think there's only 2 active right now.
Right.
So he will make 3 to give him a quorum.
I actually met Mr. Smith on a street corner when I was holding sign.
You didn't say what kind of
Really? Did you?
Glad I give you people such joy.
And you were holding a sign?
And I was holding a sign.
I'd like to see how they write that in the newspaper.
I know, that's gonna, how are you gonna put that one in there?
Listen, turkeys. This gentleman walked up to myself, Mr. Teitelbaum, and the person who was holding a sign for me, who had a U.S. Navy cap on, and they started having a discussion on the street corner about, which boat were you on, which vessel were you on. And this gentleman was more than excited to be put on the Marine Resources Commission. Obviously has a lot of experience on the water. And I thought he was a really great guy. He's just moved here a couple of years ago.
Obviously, you met him
stop
on
it.
Conrad.
Mr. Smith, I apologize. It doesn't always go down like this. I move that we appoint him
Okay, to a term to expire.
to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017. And his name is William J. Smith, 6
Second.
Prospect Avenue, Onset, Mass.
Yeah, we,
All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300.
All right, that concludes the business for today. I move we adjourn. All in favor?
All right, 300. Thank you all. Have a good night, everybody.